Hi, Mariéme. Thanks for making this time for us to have a conversation, especially during this time in America and around the world where there's so much going on around human rights
Mhm.
for Black people. How are you feeling?
Oh, well, thank you, Miwaza. Thank you so much for asking me. Before I start, I would like to wish my deepest condolences to George for the family and his loved ones. He seems to be a super nice guy, and I'm so sorry that his life was taken away from him at this early, very young age. Actually, he's my generation, to be honest. So I'm really sorry about the fact that we lost him. Um, I'm feeling sad, but I'm feeling optimistic and confident that we can together as a community we can make this work. There's so much to do. But being a mother of a Black young boy really worries me. But yeah, thank you for asking. I am trying to keep strong and be positive.
You've been advocating for human rights around the world, especially for women and girls, and also boys and young people around the world. And for someone like you, why are we struggling with this right now?
That's a very good question. Why are we struggling with this right now? And I think the reason why we're struggling with this right now is because we haven't sat down and listened to people concerned. As I always said, being Black is not easy. All lives matter, to be honest. But I think being a Black woman, especially someone who's been living in the West all my life, literally, it's not very, very easy because you are always reminded that you are not a normal human being. You're not a you always reminded your constraints and things
Hmm.
that happen, and you always checking yourself, and it's very uncomfortable and exhausting. And so I think this is why people are not listening, and no one is actually taking the time to understand what it means to be Black,
Hmm.
what it means to be a woman, what it
Hmm.
means to be a minority, and no one is what it means to be discriminated.
Hmm.
And I see this with my friends who are gay and lesbians, and try also to have a space in this society,
Hmm.
and I feel the same thing, with them. So, and then I think that's why my work is really important, and I'm trying to make people aware that their actions have
Hmm.
got consequences. If you
Hmm.
make people feel small, they will always feel small. And it's a constant battle, Miwaza. It's a
Hmm.
constant battle. We're always fighting to be at the top, always fighting to be
Hmm.
heard, always fighting to have a space, always fighting to be somewhere. And it's really exhausting. It's exhausting.
What does Blackness means to you, including all the pain, including all the struggles that comes with it? Like you said, you're always fighting for your space. A lot of us have that privilege of having that space, safe space, but a lot of Black people don't. Um, Including that and also the positive side of it, what does Blackness means to you?
Hmm. That's a very interesting question. What does Blackness mean to me? No one has ever asked me that before. So, what does Blackness mean to me? Blackness means pride to me. It means that I know who I am. I know my history. I know where I come from. I was born in an aristocrat family. Believe it or not, I come from a family that has worked hard, and I come from Senegal. Where that's where the slave trades was. We have a lot of history in Senegal. If you go to the Gore Island, where the slaves, where the trade was happening, and so for me, being Black means a lot of pain sometimes, of what we have to endure for over 401 years. It's a very, very long time. And so I think for me it means that I'm proud of who I am, but I'm also a human being, someone who want to be part of this society. I was not born. I didn't mean to be, to be who I am. This is my DNA. This is my body. God created me like this. So I'm a human being. So being Black, Blackness for me is pride, is justice, is success. It's, means having your space in society, being able to help other people, being able to be proud of yourself, knowing your history, understanding who you are as a human being, having compassion, empathy, and kindness. That's what being Black is for me. Helping your communities, giving money to other people, helping them. For me, I think that's what Blackness means to me. But it means that to many people who are doing amazing work in the Black community, and they don't use their Blackness as a tool. But I think now we're talking about being Black, being white, being different. Being Black for me is pride, it's justice, it's being fair.
I remember the first time that I was interviewing you, the long meeting, and I remember you said, I'm an African woman and I'm very grateful for where I am today. And it's about time for me to give back to my continent as an African woman. And I remember that was such a powerful moment to hear that. And there was so much pride in that, with your history and your culture and your continent. And I remember it was a very beautiful moment. So you being from Senegal and living in the West for a long time, for all your life, would you mind explaining to us a little bit about, what it's like and what it means to be African in African continent, and what it means and what it looks like to be African in Western context? Is there a difference or is there not? Stuff like that.
There's a difference, definitely. That's a very good question. There's a difference in being an African living in an African continent, and there's a difference being an African living in the London or in the United States. And I think I'll start with being an African, and I think this is again comes to our history. Even living in Africa is difficult for Africans because there's so much pressure in Africans living in their own continent. Some of us don't actually know our history, but it's very difficult to actually be an African living in Africa because of pressure for job, for economic empowerment, now we have competition because we have now Western organizations. They've been present in the continent for decades, and so again, there's a competition for an African elite to have the job they're looking for. So it's a struggle. You see poverty. You see some part of Africa are really wealthy, and some part of Africa are really poor. You have your own people who are struggling to eat. They don't have water, sanitation. The basic fundamentals of human rights, they don't have it. They don't have internet. They don't have connectivity. They're refugees in their own continent. It's unbelievable. And Africa is a wealthy continent. So much resources, but we struggle to live in our own continent because of the history we have and what people have done to our continent, because of colonialization, because of lack of education. So that's also one problem that I think many Africans are struggling. That's why we are going out of the continent to immigrate in the West, where sometimes we're not appreciated. We are not liked. We are not respected. Unless you have a degree or MBAs from their own schools, or you are religious from their own religions. The missionaries came to our continent. And because of that, we have a lot of conflict. People, you are in Africa, you cannot be prosperous unless something happen. And you are in the West, where you are treated like a very small person, as an immigrant, as someone who's not valuable. And so it's very, and you are hiding all the time. I live in the UK, where the United Kingdom has a history with colonialism. We all know that, but it's very difficult for an African person to prosper in this country, because you are constantly reminded that you are a Black person. Constantly reminded you are a Black person. So there's a struggle on both dimensions.